This is a 1995
Nissan
Skyline.
Mitsubishi
Hey,
Pajero. What the?
hey, Doug already did that. Much better. As I was saying, this is a 1997 R33 Skyline. And today, we're gonna go over all the quirks and features of this Japanese icon and then take it for a drive and give it an Ellis score. The R33 Skyline is the redheaded stepchild of the 390 Skylines. However, I generally tend to think that it's one of the best looking models. Starting here at the front of the car, the R33 has a generally more streamlined look than the R32. It's a lot less boxy and more 90s cool. One of the coolest features of this particular R33 is the cool Skyline S on the front. Sometimes you'll see this on the grille here, sometimes not at all. But I personally think the best look is right here on the hood. On the front of the R33, you have a plethora of lights. You got your main headlights here, your daytime runners, your brights, fog light here, and your turn signal. That brings the total number of bulbs you potentially have to change in the front of the car to 10. This can be a huge pain in the ass, but I think it makes the thing look awesome. At the rear of the car, they kind of cooled it with the light bulbs. You got your two tail lights there that double as your brake indicators, as well as your turn signal here and reverse lights here. Oh, I almost forgot. There's also a brake light indicator on your spoiler here. Speaking of lights, you also have turn signal indicators on the side of the car that do blink in tandem with the rest of the turn signals. Another interesting quirk on the Skyline is the GT badge here on the side. On the GTST models, you're gonna see a white background with a red G and a red background with a white T. Whereas on the GTR models, you're going to see a red background with a white G and a white background with a red G. This is a really easy way to tell the models apart if you're completely blind or only 3 inches away from the side of the car. Another interesting quirk on the back of the Skyline is going to be your release latch for your trunk. It's actually hidden right here under the only exterior Nissan badging on the car, this little metal Nissan logo. And all you got to do is just flip that up, then you got your keyhole to open the car. Another interesting quirk is this Skyline emblazoned into the back of the car, just to let everyone know that this is a Skyline. On some of the models, this is actually a light up panel that glows blue in the dark. I really wish mine had that. Because this is a right-hand drive car, your gas door is going to be on the right side of the vehicle, so that could maybe be confusing. It opens with a little latch right next to the door. Now onto the interior of the Skyline, there are a few interesting quirks and features I like to point out. First off is the key to the Skyline. Pretty standard stuff here with a lock and unlock on the key fob there. The key is just one piece, so there isn't a separate receiver. On the back, it is labeled just Nissan, which is a little bit strange to me considering that they tried to hide Nissan pretty much everywhere else on the outside of the car. However, that trend does continue here on the steering wheel where you can see the Nissan logo emblazoned right across the area where the airbag will deploy straight into your face when you're going 160 miles an hour in this thing. Right below that is a SRS airbag little thing. That lets you know that you are protected. I think that was actually a relatively new feature from my understanding. I know airbags were around, but like they weren't nearly as encompassing in the R32 model as they were in the R33. If you look at some of the ad material for this car, there is a lot of advertisement about the airbag systems, so safety first. Another quirk of this car, and this is the same for pretty much all right-hand drive cars, so if you've never driven one you might not know this, is that your stalks are switched. So on this side, this is going to be your turn signal indicator as well as your light stalk. And then on this side is going to be your washer and wiper stalk. Now for the next quirk of this car, and something that's not too uncommon on modern vehicles, but seems pretty uncommon for at least American cars from the 90s, is actually a button to retract your side view mirrors here. So you just click this, and you can see that the side view mirror actually retracts there. Not dissimilar to their economy, in the 90s, the Japanese loved retracting, so they added this switch here to retract and put out your antenna in the back. Unfortunately, mine doesn't work, so I have it taped up like a janky piece of crap. Moving on to the top of the center stack here, you have some pretty interesting features. A heated rear windshield, which is, I'm not sure how common that was, but it is nice to have. Not sure if mine works anymore because I had to have the mirror tint stripped off the back. American laws. Also over here on the left, you've got your nice little quartz clock. Now, you can adjust this clock with these little hour and minute buttons here, but there's also inexplicably a reset button. And this always just brings it back to 1 o'clock. And then you have to just go through and change it back to the actual time. Down here you have your AC and climate controls, very nice. You can just hit the auto button there to turn that on. Nice little display. There are a couple different modes. You've got feet, face, feet and face, and I guess that's it. If you want to do the front windscreen defrost, you hit this button here, and that actually turns off the other modes, so you can't have both. You can only have windscreen or feet and face. You also have your blower level here. You just hit this little blower button and you get 4 different levels of AC, as you can hear. To turn the AC off and just have on heat, you hit the AC button, and now you are on heat. You might have noticed that this is all in Celsius, so if you can't read Celsius, then you're just screwed. When you're done with your AC, you just hit the off button and it turns the whole thing off. Pretty simple there. However, I would like it if there was maybe a knob or something. That might have been a little bit easier. Down here in the radio, there are all sorts of cool options. My screen, unfortunately, does not work, so I can't show you what the little LCD looks like. However, I can kind of go over the different little gadgets you got here in the center stack. First off, you got your CD port here. And of course, I am listening to Elton John's greatest hits at the moment. Just slide that back in there. You can tune your disc up and down here. Volume is a simple knob like you'd expect. You can also turn the radio on and off by pressing the knob. That's pretty standard for most vehicles. Down here below, you've got your tape deck, and then you can switch between the options CD, tape, FM, AM if you have everything loaded up. Over here, you've got your bass and treble knobs, which are nice and actually do something. And then there are a couple mystery buttons over here. I don't think that this car has a CD changer built into it, but it does have a CD change button, which is kind of interesting. And then above that is the super mystery button. If anybody reads Japanese and can tell me what this means, I would be really happy to know. Oddly enough, despite having the tune disc buttons right here at the top, I tend to have to change the songs on the CDs with this button here and this button here, APS rewind and APS fast forward. I would assume that that would be for the tape, but for some reason it is not. Down below that, worth mentioning, like in every Japanese car, you're going to have a plethora of ashtrays. This one here came with a free sticker. Nice little Japanese fire truck sticker. And then the gentleman who owned it before me filled it graciously with a lot of beads. To the left of the ashtray is your cigarette lighter port. I have a little double USB in there right now, which is powering my Mochi. Now down to the center console area of the vehicle. We have our parking brake here on the right side of the car, which is pretty cool. I guess if you're trying to do some cool drift stuff, you can lock up the rear wheels with those drum brakes just right there. It does have a quick release. And then obviously mine is an automatic. I know I'm a huge puss, but it was about $10,000 cheaper than buying the manual, and you can do a manual swap for $5,000. So who's the smart one now? In case anyone out there inexplicably actually cares about the automatic transmission in a 1997 Skyline, you do have your park, reverse, neutral, drive, and first and second gear options here. There's also an overdrive built into the shifter here, which you can turn on and off with this little button. I'm not sure why you would ever turn it off, because it just makes the car run 10 times worse when you do. Another interesting quirk right behind the shift knob is this little switch here, which is for the automatic transmission. As you can see, it says AT, unless the glare is too bad. On the top, there is a power mode, which turns orange, and then on the bottom, there is a snow mode, which turns green. Pretty cool. I haven't figured out exactly what that does yet. It doesn't seem to make any marked difference in performance. However, I do tend to turn the snow mode on when it's raining outside, just to feel like I'm doing something. Another interesting quirk on the Skyline is the single cup holder in the car. I'm not kidding, there is only one cup holder in the entire car, and it is right here. It is also square. It does have a little rounded edge right there, and it does come in just this one size here, which does fit most drinks. If you got like a really big plastic cup or something, it's not going to fit in here, but it does do well for most. They also have this ingenious little gadget here. It is just a tiny little piece of like wire that just folds down and turns the cup holder into about 2/3 the size of a normal. And you know, this allows for you to have like a Red Bull can or something in there. Pretty cool little thing, and super smart in my opinion, especially since you only have one cup holder. Behind the cup holder is your center console. It's got a nice soft leather top to rest your elbows on. And inside there is nothing really important to see but a bunch of trash. Finally, moving to the rear of the Skyline, we do have one more thing back here in the center console, and that is a secondary ashtray. Like I said, there are going to be plenty of ashtrays in any 90s Japanese car. This one is also filled with Mystery Nerds beads. I have been really tempted to try to eat them, but have not yet. In the rear of the car, pretty standard, 2 bucket seats, kind of divided by this little soft insert in the center there. You could apparently sit someone in the middle, however they would be kind of up on a hump, and I've never tried it. Headrests are not adjustable, but they do at least get seat belts and grab handles. Finally, the last quirk I want to talk about on the interior of the Skyline are these pockets here. These seem like they're just ordinary map pockets, which is great. However, and I'm not sure if I can get a shot of this, once you actually put something inside these map pockets, the interior right here opens up into the door panel. And I don't know if this is just mine, but it is on both sides here, and they both do it. Like so you put stuff in here and then you hit the brakes or something and it slides forward and then it goes into the door panel, and the only way to get it out is to open the door. So they're definitely recommended just for maps, I guess, like things that aren't going to be able to slide in there. Just super bizarre. All right, y'all, so that concludes the quirks and features of the 1997 R33 Skyline GTS25t. I'm now going to take this for a ride and give you my honest opinion on what it's like to own the Skyline that is not quite the GTR. So starting off here, first thing to note, this car is, there you go. This car is insanely low, and dealing with any kind of speed bump or steep driveway or anything like that is pretty brutal, not very fun. Here comes another steep driveway. I'm assuming this could be changed with suspension tuning, but you know, you don't want this thing to be riding too terribly high. And now on to the next issue. Around my place, and you can see the camera wobbling, there are lots of historic brick streets, which are beautiful and awesome, and we love them, but they are the bane of my existence for this vehicle. It is absolutely brutal driving around on these. All right, now we're on to some smooth roads. The camera got knocked over naturally because I don't have a good setup for this. Nice acceleration, you know. Really getting a feel for the road in this car too. The steering is very responsive, and it feels like you can really kind of like zip change lanes super quick, like some kind of cool, you know, racer boy in Tokyo. Braking is great on the car. I actually recently had the rear rotors and all the pads replaced, so the braking is fantastic. Now that I'm here at a stoplight, a few little things I do really need to do to this car are get a new catback exhaust pipe installed, as well as get this window here fixed. The motor went out and now it does not go all the way up. Going into a turn, so the camera will fall right here. So I'm gonna try to get some acceleration footage here now that we're getting up to a kind of higher speed limit zone. There is quite a bit of traffic, so I'm gonna kind of fall back and see if I can't get something going. All right, so we're cruising about 40 miles an hour right now. Let's try to get to 60 right quick. Camera immediately falls over. This car really is like such a joy to drive. The noise it makes and everything, with my window slightly cracked permanently. You can always hear it. Let's see if I can make the camera fall over again with the acceleration. Almost. All right, back in place again. One more acceleration. Oh gosh, all right, and we're up to 100. This thing is super quick. A lot of people are obsessed with the GTR, and for good reason. The all-wheel drive is awesome, but you're really not missing out on a ton with the GTS-T, especially for the difference in price. I mean, this car, you can pick up a good example for sub 20 grand versus like 60 to 70 for a GTR of equivalent mileage. And really, on paper at least, all you're missing out on is 50 horsepower stock. There goes the camera again. 50 horsepower stock and the all-wheel drive. I really need to get a better setup. The twin turbo on the GTR is also nice. Don't get me wrong, the GTR is certainly a better vehicle. You know, it looks better, it drives better, everything about it is better. But when you're considering that this car is 3 times cheaper, you know, if you just want to get behind the wheel of something really fun, especially since, you know, it is rear-wheel drive, I really can't see a reason why you wouldn't pick one of these up. Another cool thing about this car in particular, and I know a lot of people find it to be complete sacrilege to have an automatic transmission in one of these, but the shifting on it is really so crisp, and I've heard at least that these things are pretty much bulletproof. I actually read a forum post about a guy trying to destroy one of these on purpose because he had purchased a manual, was going to do the swap, and was like throwing it into reverse, going 40 miles an hour, just trying to blow it up, and couldn't do it, which really doesn't surprise me. It's a really strong unit. All right, y'all, we're on a really nice straightaway here, so I'm gonna drop down to about 40 now. Again, this car really doesn't like going slower than about 40 miles an hour, so we're going uphill. Let's just punch it. $120 km. Oh wee. And I'm surprised the camera isn't getting thrown around more because you really do feel the road in this car. I've got a sports suspension with it tuned pretty tight, so it is quite bumpy and pretty visceral for what it is. But so fun. And you just really want to like crank it around corners. Just knock that camera around. I need to hire like a cameraman or something. So fun though. Gas mileage on the car, not that great. I would say on average I'm probably getting like 15, maybe 20 on a good day. Of course, I do not drive this car like an economy car. I drive it very often, but I drive it pretty hard, and I think you could probably get better gas mileage than what I'm getting with it. Here's off the block. Oh, and camera's gone. Danger mode, swapping the camera back. It really just encourages you to speed. I haven't gotten any tickets in it yet, I haven't had any problems, but I really do have to be careful with this thing. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but this is a completely stock unit. I mean, there's nothing has been done to this at all, and there is a lot you can do. I've seen the GTS25Ts tuned up to like nearly 600 to 800 horsepower. If you want to throw $30,000–$40,000 into it and make it a total beast, you can. For me, it's really more about the aesthetic of the car. I like the way it looks. I think it's just enough power for me. Way quicker than my Pajero, obviously. So I just have fun with it as it is. One other thing to note about this particular model, the GTS25T models, is that it does actually have the high cast system that is in the GTR. So one of the big selling points of the GTR, beyond it being an all-around beast, is that it has the four-wheel steering. So this car, despite being rear-wheel drive exclusively, does also have that four-wheel steering system in it. So you really do get a really great turn radius in this car. It puts it on par with something half its size, really, because those rear wheels actually vector with the front wheels and allow it to have this crazy radius. So something to consider if you are looking at Skyline models. All right, y'all, well, that's been the quirks and features and an exceptionally bad driving review of the 1997 R33 Skyline GTS25t. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like, leave a comment down below, and consider subscribing to the channel. I'm trying to release videos as often as I possibly can with the resources I have. I film all this stuff on my own, so I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching this far, and have a great day.